Okay. Bismillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome back, everyone, to the Muslim Real Podcast. I'm your host, Ismail Howell. And it's been a while, but we are back with a guest, mashallah, a friend who I know for many, many years. We met back in Egypt back in 2000 or something. And recently we met up again in Luton, got talking. And he was someone who I want to get on this podcast to discuss a very, very, very important topic. Now, Imam Abdullah Muhammed is a current Imam in Masjid in Derby. He's been very active in Dawah up north, dealing with some very controversial issues. And obviously, he knows from his experience the Muslim community is facing some modern day issues to do with family, social issues. So, because of his work, he is the person to discuss this issue, and he's ready to go. So, and he's got a master's in your Sheikh, Imam. What was your master's in?
Um, Security studies.
Okay, excellent. Security studies. So, what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into the topic because it is a very, very interesting topic and something that we are, as a Muslim community, facing. Now, reason why I believe this topic is so important because the issue, I'm just going to mention it, the gender issue, the LGBT plus issue is being pushed very hard through the media, newspaper, social media. It's being pushed and it opposes our values. So tackling this issue for the Muslim community to keep ourselves and our children safe and on the Surat al-Mustaqim is a key issue right now. And we need to have a discussion as to how do we deal with this issue without seeming to be transphobic or not to discriminate. We have to be able to walk this minefield with wisdom and to be able to put our values across, which I feel probably the majority of families in the UK and other faith communities will agree with 99.9% of what we want to put across. But as a Muslim community, being under the microscope, we have to have some wisdom as to how we put across these issues. So it's important discussion, it's one topic to discuss. And with us, we have Imam Abdullah Muhammed to help us get through this issue now. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Faddal.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, Sheikh, how do we deal with this minefield? How does the Muslim community move forward in addressing this issue? I know it's a big, big topic. There's many layers to it. Where do we start, Sheikh?
I thought the theme of today's topic was really the challenges of family life.
Yes.
So it being that, we can start there and then kind of move our way downwards and try to get the roots of it.
Yeah.
If that's okay. And so family life, the issue of family life is an issue that has a huge amount of differences, different understandings, different definitions with different huge amount of people. So if you were to gather 1,000 people and interview each of them separately, and you were to ask those individuals, what is the meaning of family life to you? When you sum it up, there would be a huge, massive difference of what it really means and how to define family life. And with that, I think sometimes all that differences, you have different expectation because there's different understanding. So if people have a variety of different understanding of family life, the expectations of family life will be different. And sometimes this state can contribute to a huge amount of chaos together with other issues, societal issues regarding family life. So the way forward, we can look at these issues is trying to look at some of the models, the existing models of family life. We look at these models, put these models in the center of our discussion, analysis, a discussion for unpacking, and that may help us to gain some kind of shared common understanding of what family life should be, what it ought to be, and what it actually is.
Okay. Abdullah, I just want to bring in one of our guests, our regulars, Abdurrahim AR Sense. How you doing, brother? You okay?
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Wa
salam.
alaikum salam. Welcome to the discussion. Okay, Sheikh. So if you're talking about the family structure, right? Because as Muslims and other faith communities, we have an idea of the family structure. And in these modern times, people are saying, well, that's a fluid question. Okay, what are we putting across then as believers as to what is the family structure?
Well, the family structure has, in principle, 5 models. There are 5 models, 5 samples, 5 dimensions to it presently. 2 of these models are coherent, working with each other, talking with each other, and developing. And in most cases, they're saying the same thing, with the exception of maybe 10% difference with 2 of these models. There's another model that is kind of slightly different. It's in between. It's an in-between balance. And the last 2 models of these family life are diametrically in opposition to the other models of family life. So if we were to have a brief overview of what these models look like, it will help us unpack our personal experiences, our previous understanding, gaps in our understanding, and we might be able to collectively reason or have some collective reasoning, collective understanding, collective revelation of what that model looks like. Now, we have previous scriptures. We have Jewish scriptures, Christian scriptures, Muslim scriptures. And in most cases, those scriptures does not give you an A to Z explanation of what this perfect model looks like. Because majority of the scriptures, revelation came down to endorse and to support an existing model, but it didn't provide explicit A to Z how to do the perfect model. So we can go into, if that's okay with you, we can kind of go into some of the models. So one of the first models of reference for family life is what we call the medieval family structure, or the historical family structure, the traditional family structure, the biological family structure, the natural law, which dates back to antiquity. So the first model of family life is a very ancient model. And that model is designed, is built, it has been examined, and it's based on natural law. And it is based on natural law. And in our religion, which is Islam specifically, Islam recognizes nature, the fitrah. It recognizes natural law. And Islam work hand in hand with natural law. It's not against natural law, it works with. So in natural law, we see other verses in the Quran where Allah says that He created mankind in nation and tribes. Nation and tribes. That's very, very important. Now, there are multiple layers of what that means, because there's other information after it and before it. There's a lot of information. But the mere fact that we can zoom in on nation and tribes, it tells you something that is big, something that is together, and something that is working for the common good. So the thing about these medieval family life, the historical family life, traditional, the biological family life, they're all based on natural law. Now, we can come back to that model and examine that model and extract some characteristics of what constitutes that model, so we can kind of deconstruct the model in order to fully understand it. And the second model, if it's okay, and just the second model is really a faith-based model of family life. So
Faith-based.
Faith-based. So you have the Abrahamic faith, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and all those, that religious faith-based model. And you can look at family life through those lenses. And in many cases, the first model and the second model, they work together, collaboratively work together. They are coherent, and most of it, they speak the same thing. They're not diametrically opposed in terms of the structure of it.
Okay.
Structure, the purpose, the organization, they all work together. So
meaning
natural law,
can we put some labels on this thing? Now, obviously, we're talking about the structure, the faith-based structure, the natural structure is concerning the man and the woman.
well, sometimes it can be defined as that, man,
or
woman,
the man and other women.
or sometimes.
However,
Yeah, so sometimes in a modern day time, they call it starts with man and wife. It
okay,
starts like, but with antiquity, it really wasn't starting like that. That's not the starting. But faith-based, Abrahamic faith-based is not man and woman. It's man, woman, and God.
yeah,
So it's not man and woman, but man, woman, and God. So man and woman come together in a contract with God.
yeah,
So if a woman behaves a certain way towards a man, she's doing her duty towards God. If a man does his duty in relation to his family, he's doing his duty to God. He's serving his Lord. So no party can say, well, I did you a favor, you did me a favor, and we just kind of measuring favors. No, we are doing our duties and responsibilities to God. We in a contract, we in a covenant with God. So the structure from the faith communities, there's slight differences, but all the differences is like a development, a better understanding, an improvement into one direction. And that direction is harmony, working together. And we can go through some of those lists. So if you want, we can go through the third dimension. The third dimension is what they call the nuclear family. So the nuclear family now was developed somewhere around 1930s in Britain by Bolonowski, and he talked about the nuclear family and what he actually did. He was a Polish writer, an academic. He went to many African countries, and he was an anthropologist, and he challenged the current narrative of his time of how they describe families and tribes. He was challenging them. So he went to those countries, lived among them, and he was able to gather a huge amount of information, and he called it the nuclear family, meaning to say they were the foundations of society, they were universal principles, they preserved traditions, they were the greatest benefit. And what he did, he created a profile and raised the nuclear family to a high profile whereby it be instituted in academics. It could be recognized in court systems. It's a foundation of society. Politicians have to recognize it, fund it, support it. And the lack of supporting it is the demise of civilization. So he built that profile in the 1930s, between 1930 and 1940. And in many instances, he draws some parallel references between the faith communities and the traditional medieval biological families, natural law family. So what he did, he combined all of that, created an academic structure, and institutionalized it.
So
Yes,
his history of the nuclear family, he establish it as being the best model? Did he speak about its its benefits to society? How did he establish the nuclear family in regards to all other ways of living that men and women do? Did he pull it on a pedestal? Did he say, well, this is the natural way, or was it like, well, it's just one of many ways to live?
Oh, no. He put it on a pedestal. And
Okay.
he's an anthropologist, so it became a very essential part of sociology. So if you go to school and you study any of the social sciences, they will talk about the nuclear family and the virtues of it. It's called nuclear family for a reason. Number one, its strength, its contribution to civilization. And he epitomized it, he popularized it, and he raised it to very, very high levels. But what he did, some of the previous narratives or accounts of African country tribal families, he was able to challenge those notions and draw parallel to say That's one view, but there's another view, and he found ceremonies, union, structure, leadership, negotiation, and he was able to draw huge amount of practices that he identified, and he take note of it, and he put it into academic structure, philosophical structure, and it was recognized. He did a fantastic job.
Was he coming
So
from a faith based, or was is he a secularist, or what is
he was not faith based,
he?
but he in his writings he was very objective.
Okay.
So he
Okay.
recognized the faith communities. He did recognize their rituals and their structure and their family and how their morals and their belief. He recognized that. He gave credence to that. But he went far back to look at some of the older reference, which is the natural law family. So he was even saying that the natural law family, as well as the faith-based family, there's not much of a difference. And one of his writings, one of his papers, someone was given some kind of explanation, and they said it in terms of difference between the natural law family, the biological family, the medieval family, the traditional family, and the faith-based family, they're almost the same, except maybe 10% difference. Right.
Okay,
So
just from my point, obviously that sets off. If you have any questions, Abdulrahim, Fadl, you can cut in. But obviously that sets kind of like within academia, within the secularist ideology, the liberals, they understand about the nuclear family. They've seen the research. Why is that now being challenged?
right.
This is the point I'll get. Like, why is it being challenged? Why is people trying to undermine it as if to say they have an alternative or a better you might say social structure than the nuclear family?
Well, the good news about is Abdulrahim, that question posed to Abdulrahim?
No, it's supposed to you, Zaki. I'm just saying if Abdulrahim has any questions, then he can cut in.
Abdulrahim, if you have any questions, if you want, I'll just complete the
complete. Sorry.
The 5 dimensions or the 5 models, and we make that 5 models in the center of the discussion, and then you can chip in on various parts, and you can take some comments. Right. So the 2 first models speak to each other. They work coherently with each other. They're saying the same thing, but in different words and different language. The academics came and endorsed it in 1940, calling it the nuclear family, and they developed that in sociology. So the first 2 is saying the same thing. It get endorsed and great amount of support and a high profile and popularized, by Milanowski. Now the 4th stage, the 4th phase, or the 4th dimension is the dimension of family life, what we have now. So a lot of people now in family life, their attitude is really go with the flow. It's a go with the flow. They don't have a firm, fixed definition. They don't have an A to Z model from start to finish what makes a successful family life. And they don't have the extended connections to support that train traveling on, straight on a train line. So the present day model today is what, is up for discussion, and we can all share views and opinions of how this present day model family life is being dismantled, recreated, reshaped, and what they call transform. So the trans industrial complex is not, in this context, doesn't mean transgender. It means the transformation of the traditional, historical, religious, faith-based family structure into something of what we have today. And, very shortly, we will see exactly where that is going, where it is now and where it is going.
Okay. That's mega important. And I'll let you finish your categories first, and then we'll dive in.
So what we have today. So we will talk about a huge amount of what we have today. And what we have today, we're in the middle or 3/4 way into that transition where the traditional biological family, the memories, the blueprint is gone. It's almost forgotten. That's lost, almost lost. The faith-based family structure, again, that's a little very, very silent and have a defeatist approach to it. And the faith-based response to the current crisis of this crusade on family life It's like we get punched, we get knocked down, and before we trying to analyze how to get up, what happened is another 4 different combination of punches attacking us. So hence the reason why the state of family life really is in a real chaos now. It's because there's a crusade launch against that. The 5th period is the question is, where is this taking it? What is the end game?
Yes.
Where is this going and what is the end game? And this is not a guessing game. We're not going to, it's not a guessing game. It's not a conspiracy game. We're going to produce evidence and references as to exactly where we are today and what is the intended end game. Abdul Rahim, please, sorry, I do apologize if I'm going too fast or not giving you a chance. Please, if you have anything you want.
Now you finish your thing and then we're going to dive in, bro.
Right.
Don't worry.
So just mention that. Now, if we look at the medieval, we can look at possibly, for time's sake, we're going to extract 10 characteristics describing the medieval family, the historical family, the traditional family, the biological family. So let's look at that model. Now, if you look at that model, the characteristics of that model or that sample starts with number 1, natural law. Natural law was the reference. And natural law is something that is natural. It is agreed upon. It's not intellectual. It's very natural. It's very human. It has a very, very human element to it. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was asked about right and wrong. And he said, consult your heart. For indeed, if something is wrong, you will feel very uncomfortable about it. You're going to feel guilt. So he himself, the Prophet Muhammad, he and his community, he taught something of natural law. And we all know about the fitrah. The fitrah is natural law. So natural law have a place in Islam. It has a place in Christianity and Judaism. Now, in previous scriptures says the house that is divided cannot stand. The house that is divided cannot stand. So it's essential that the home is united. Very, very essential. Now, if you look at the medieval times, families started with one fundamental intention. Number 1, they were large numbers. Families were large, so large and extended, they became tribes. And Allah created us in tribes and nations. And so he's saying, well, I don't really recognize individualism. And this one person and this 2 person, he ain't really dealing with that. Allah addressed the jama'at, the congregation. Allah loves unity. So big families, as the Prophet ﷺ says, on the day of judgment, I will be honored because my nation is the last, but it will be the biggest. So big families, big tribes, it's really important. So the traditional, historical, medieval, biological family, numbers was really important to them. Very, very important. Plenty numbers was really important to them. Now, in contrast, you would know that in the middle 80s, 1980s, there was a big drive for birth control. There was a big drive for birth control.
Yes.
Wearing condoms, birth control, population control.
Freedom. Sexual freedom, basically.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So in contrast, if you look at the current challenges that we have to the medieval time, they wanted big families spread. Now, all Rastafari from the Caribbean, they used to say God created man to have plenty children and spread the earth, to create the earth. All right. Now, in the books of Tafsir, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. So that in Tafsir, Khalifa means to widely populate the earth. So one of the meanings, because one definition is a Khalifa as an authority representing the will of Allah on earth. The other layer of understanding, which is well documented in the books of Tafsir, is that Allah sent Adam, he created Adam to create a massive population. Ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, to place you on the earth to create massive population. So we can see again where the faith base together with the traditional natural law family, they work together. Whereas in a modern context, you find birth control, condoms, overpopulation, scaremongering, and all the other tactics. And the other question, you find LGBTQ would be another factor that will curb the population. Because if, let's say, 200 years ago, you had LGBTQ, the population today would be, I don't know how much. So the question is, LGBTQ expansion by practice is a theory that will reduce population. Yeah, it's a population reduction strategy. So large populations was very, very important. Numbers were very important. Families were big and they extended, and they had so much extended family, they were called tribes. Livelihood was very much interlinked. So if a man was a tailor, his sons would be tailors, or his wife would be one of those women who knit the cloth together so that he can use the cloth to make either clothing or tents. So tribal families, their income was very much linked together. So if the father was a farmer, his sons will be either doing agriculture or looking after the cattle. So they were interdependent, interreliant upon each other for their livelihood. And that by itself creates a bond. So I have a friend of mine in Birmingham, beautiful brother, alhamdulillah, Allah hasibu. He's Yemenis. His father was a tailor. His grandfather was a tailor. He's a tailor. His brother is a tailor. There was a kind of continuity, a legacy, a tradition by livelihood. Now, in contrast, what you find is that capitalism had a plot to get all these women, mothers and young girls and young boys, out of that tribe, out of their houses, and into an industry building capital, either for the state or the tycoons, the economic tycoons. So capitalism was designed to bring all these women out, bait them out of their houses, out of their homes, the young children as well as the wives and the daughters, get them out there and work into the work industry. And I'm only saying that to show you how there's a contrast where all the labor was done internally for the greater good of the family and for the tribe and for the expansion of the family and the tribe, whereas that get divided. All that hard work from the women and the children, all that mental energy, all that skills had to go into an industry serving the state as well as the private sector capitalists.
Yes. So are we saying that the women working, because obviously we kind of see it as freedom for the woman to go and work and her independence, but was it more of the economy, the capitalists need the woman to work, but they just switch it up on them and said, yeah, we're going to give you independence, but really the economy needs to go out and work. Do you get what I'm saying? They might frame it from a point of, woman, you need to be, you can have it all kind of thing. You can be the manager, the mother, and X, Y, Z. So they sold them this picture, but in reality, they're thinking, yeah, we need more people to get out there and work so you can pay for the pension for the next generation. Do you get what I'm saying? How was it framed to get the woman out of the house?
Well, the thing about, first of all, there was a lot of false assumption.
Yeah.
Women can work. Well, first of all, women always working because they have children.
Yes.
And a woman working, looking after her kids, looking after the house, looking after the father, the breadwinner. She's a hero in her job. She's a hero within her role. Now, the capitalist narrative didn't really praise her. They felt as though, well, you're enslaved.
You're not making no money.
Yeah, you're enslaved. Now, you ask a very pertinent question there, and we really need to address that. I intended to address it later on, but we're going to address it now. The language that was framed to bait the women and children into this new trans world, not transgender, transformation of the family life. This language was taken from the socialist struggle. So way back in the day, you had workers fighting for freedom, liberation. You had Nelson Mandela fighting against apartheid. You had people fighting against slavery and discrimination. And the loud cry that was so powerful and inevitable and could not be stopped was words like freedom, liberation, the movement. So what they did, the capitalists, they hijacked those words and framed their agenda using those same words, creating a subliminal message as though the women are oppressed and they're in slavery, or they're in some kind of camp like what Hitler have done. So
they have to get out. They have to come out.
They shape the language, and unfortunately, some of our leaders wasn't language smart to see the differences how they shape in the language. So the capitalist agenda, the socialist agenda, they take that same language and call it freedom. They call it the freedom agenda, the liberation agenda, the movement agenda. And, we'll be able to give some references where these things are well documented. So they frame it like that. But the contrast point is that the biological family, the historical family, the medieval family, the traditional family, together with the faith community's family, the woman was highly honored, praised, glorified. She was the hero.
Of
So
the house.
much so.
Definitely.
Yeah, she was the hero. And she is the hero for what she is doing. Now, somehow messages get into the home, into the tribe to let them know, well, you are oppressed.
Yeah.
You've been exploited. You can do better than that.
You change to the kitchen kind of thing.
Right. So you're chained to the kitchen, you can do better than that, whatever. So it took all the women, all the children, and early childhood working. So people start working from a very, very young age. A lot of people tell you, oh, I've been grinding since 17 years, since 18 years, or since 12 years. Or I've been grinding. So people have been working for a long time. So they take away their childhood, they take you out the home, out the houses, take the women, take the daughters, take the mothers, and they put them into the industry. That same kind of industry similar to the slavery in order to drive capitalism. And the state had a stake in it because it's going to build the state. The state had more power, and the capitalists, well, obviously, they're going to have a big cut in the pie. So livelihood was all about you expanding your family, your wife, your children, everything. All your property was all about your interests, your well-being, your expansion. So if for the last 2 years you did well on the farm, you'll buy a couple another farms. So you will do well. Now, if you have a farm now and your wife working in the industry, your children grinding as well, or going to university, what happened to your farm? You're looking to sell your farm for next to nothing and go in a flat or an apartment.
You're saying because the traditional structure is broken down, there's no one now to take on your farm for the next generation because they've gone to the city, the woman's gone here, there. Okay, so he's going to sell his farm and do something else.
Now you have to recondition. They have to recondition, reprogram, and reset the woman mind for the industrial workforce. And what that means, it created a tension between women and men, gender tension, because a lot of women, the system, the capitalist system, as well as some government, make room for women, but they had to push out men. So men had less power, even though they were working, they had less power to be able to look after their family, to be adored, to be respected by the family. They had less power. And they were very, very, walking on thin ice. Because systematically, they were bringing in massive waves of women and young children. So sometimes you go to a big seminar and you see some young boys or young girls leading it. So what they start doing also, they start making movies, songs, praising young people. So you have young heroes. Some little child 6 years ago is a hero. So they're programming those children, you are the hero. And then they start giving children rights over the parents, children rights over the teachers. So sometimes the teacher and a child is a girl, and you cannot correctly manage that child behavior because that child has the power to report you. And if you have 3 reports against you, what happened to your career? You can't pay a mortgage. Your career going down the drain. You're scarred for life. So teachers were walking on ice and pandering to children because systematically, Pharaoh and Nimrod decide to give power to women and children, dogs and animals, and people who had trouble with the gender, give them a lot of power in order to change the dynamics.
Okay.
So it's a kind of
Now,
Pontius Pilate politics. And the
yes.
Pontius Pilate politics, you probably know about Pontius Pilate politics. So just to refresh the memory of those who a little bit was off the theology thing, Pontius Pilate was a Roman emperor, a Roman prefect. And Judea was having massive problems, rebellion against the taxes. They had a lot of problems against the Romans. So the Roman headquarters sent Pontius Pilate to Judea to manage the rebellion and to maintain order in Judea and establish Roman superiority over the people. Now, what happened? Pontius Pilate found two things. Number one, he found Jesus there, and he found that was a very, very potent enemy as my biggest problem. So what Pontius Pilate do? He make agreement with some of the rabbis and the businessmen, and he used the businessmen and the rabbis to war against Jesus in order to secure his position. So the Pontius Pilate politics is a politics where if you are America and you have a beef with Russia, you just support the Afghans to fight the Russians.
Okay, to wear them down. Yeah.
So they call it up the Pontius Pilate politics. So Pontius Pilate came to establish Roman rule and to control and to get its taxes right and to keep the Roman ideology above everything else. So he just takes some religious leaders, he takes some businessmen, he make agreement with them and cause them to crush the movement with against Jesus. And then the narrative came down is that Pontius Pilate washed his hands and the Jews killed Jesus.
Jesus.
Pontius Pilate politics.
Got you. Understood.
Now, in power politics, you have a front stage and you have a backstage. So if the audience are mesmerized by the front stage, they never know what's going on in the backstage. And we didn't have leaders that were backstage conscious.
So we don't. The Muslim community, you think about the Muslim community, don't have.
Generally, faith community.
Okay.
Communities. But the Muslim communities end up in a little bit of a maybe slightly worse. But the whole point is in power politics, we didn't have much leaders, whether it's the faith community or Muslim community or Jewish Muslim. We didn't have that kind of aptitude to understand backstage politics. So we always responding. And when we respond, we're 10 years behind. So when 9/11 happened, majority of the Muslim leaders went and apologized, and that was good. And then after a couple of years after, they said, well, we didn't actually do it. And that's because we didn't have that kind of, our leaders are not that there.
It would have been difficult at that time to stand up because there was a lot of heat at that time. So I think everyone just ducked for cover.
In the heat of it, non-Muslims took a position and questioned the narrative. And they talk about the firemen who left their jobs because the black box, the discrepancies with the black box, and firemen took the position. They was Muslims. So there are non-Muslims who had blogs. There are people who had a lot at stake, their whole business and their career. Even actors came forward and challenged the state narrative. But we didn't challenge the state narrative, and that's fine. But all I'm saying, at some point in time, our leadership have to grow because the good shepherd will give his life to protect his flock. And we can no longer have shepherds who is drinking tea with the fox and drinking tea with the wolf.
All right, Zaki, we got to break this down a bit.
All right.
Yeah. Now, what comes to my mind right now is you're speaking about modernity, and when we come with the traditional faith-based, natural, nuclear family, it is seen as being old, right? Now we might say, well, okay, this nuclear family and faith-based family, it's got its benefits, it's structured, it's tribal, it grows, it's stability.
Tried
We're
and
gonna say all
tested.
these things, right? It works, right?
And people want something that works. They
But
want
when
a
we say, and
sample,
this is
a
just
model that works.
yeah, this is just one issue from your thing. When a woman in this day and time hears that it's better for you to stay home in the traditional structure. I mean, obviously you've got a situation where people have to go to work. You get what I'm saying? You need two incomes to come in. But if we put across to the people that, okay, the default position is for the benefit of the family that women should stay at home, when we put it across as a faith base, as Muslims, right? It's gonna sound to some, no, that's old. We need, and we're gonna say we need to have a mortgage, we need to have fast cars, so I need to go out to work. How do we navigate this field to say this is nothing to do with old versus new? It's got to do with this works. This is the best structure. It works for you and your kids and society. That's what we're trying to put across to people, not about keeping women at home. We're saying it's better for you. It works.
Well, interestingly, if you look at the old model of family structure and family life,
Mm-hmm.
women love their family.
Mm-hmm.
They love their children.
Mm-hmm.
And their heart was in a place where they are for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just welcoming Ubaidullah, another regular on Muslim Real. Assalamu alaikum, Ubaidullah. I know you jumped in a bit late.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry about the time. Sorry about the lateness.
No worries, brother. We're gonna let Zaki finish his point and then
So
get up to speed, inshallah, and we can jump in. Fadl.
the traditional woman, the
Mhm.
traditional woman is a classic woman.
Mhm.
She's a hero. She make heroes. She is the home. She is the light. In my time, you'll have, because my mother came from a family of 13. Okay, 13. My mother had 4 of us. And I still remember the time where all the children running after the mother, asking questions, pulling a dress, pulling a skirt after the mother. So I know very well, I can bear testimony that the mother is the hero. Right. Now, the modern woman now must not understand that somebody trying to get her in a house. That's not the game. That's not the wording. That's not it. What we're trying to say is that the modern woman now has a huge, tremendous, heroic role within the home, within the society. And when she is absent, Shaitan will steamroller the children. So when Shaitan wants to destroy the family, he doesn't go to the man directly. He goes to the woman, he goes to the children, and after that, he steamroller the whole society. So the destruction of the society starts with the dismantlement of the home. Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, Nimrod, all of them in common, they had a special task. They were fixated on the woman and they were fixated on those children. They went to extremes in killing the children. They went to extremes with the woman. And Jezebel, the Jezebelic spirit, we have to take that Jezebelic spirit, that Jezebelic cloud off our women folk and bring them back into the will of God. And when a woman understands her nature, when she understands her nature, when she knows who she is, she would know who her Lord is. And there's an interesting narration that says, if somebody know themselves, they will know their Lord. Very interesting narration. So the woman must not see herself or her role as somebody trying to put her in a house. She must see that she has a pivotal, a divine responsibility in nurturing life. And when she nurtures life, the fulfillment she gets and the reward she will get from her Lord, she will never be able to get that going out in the industry in that large scale. And I'm not saying some women cannot go. Some women may have to go. We have nurses, we have doctors, all the different things. There's exceptional cases and circumstances. We're just talking about the general scenario or the bigger picture. So to answer your question, yes, nobody is saying you need to be in a house, but what we're trying to explain to you the best of you is when you raise children. The love that you give them, the care that you give them, the kind words that you give them, the stories that you read for them, that will make great leaders. You are the creator, not creator may not be the best word. You are the manufacturer, the nurture of a great leaders. And when you're not there performing that duty, you find the prisons are going to expand. You find junkies on the streets. You find broken homes because you wasn't there to do a divine role and responsibility. And if you do that, what you are meant to do in a divine way, that's your ibadah to Allah. That's your worship to Allah. And you will get your reward with Allah.
Yes. I mean, now we understand, but it's a difficult sell even to Muslim women these days. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I think the pressures of the society is telling them, no, in order for you to be a woman, you need to be out there first before you get tied down to the kitchen sink. And for your husband to, for you to be obedient to your husband, you have to get out there first, rush around, become a manager, and then settle down later on. It's our duty as Muslims to put the case forward that this is the best thing for the family. How do they? I want the brothers to come in and what they think.
I just have 2 more points just to bring the characteristics of the medieval, historical, traditional, biological family. And if you want, I can just mention these 2 points quickly, 3 points quickly, and then brothers could kind of join in. So, number 1, we talk about numbers were very important. The order, there was order. There was order to it. There was a structure. There was a hierarchy structure. And the rules were defined. So people had defined rules. And they loved their role. They loved their duty. They were honored by their duty. And there were punishments in those societies. And one of the greatest punishment was banishment. In the tribal family, in the historical family, in the big families, in the medieval families, one of the worst and the most shameful punishment was banishment. Now,
for the woman, you're saying, if she didn't play a role out, for anybody. Okay.
So we have a tribe, and anybody transgressed to the highest level, they get banished. But the shame, it's not just the banishment, the shame for being outside of the family. It was unthinkable. But now, in contrast, we see people 16 years, I want my own flat. I live in the house. I call the police on you. They rush into the banishment.
Yeah. And also putting their parents into old people home and stuff like that.
Yeah, all that is part of it. So if we look at the medieval principles, their foundation, their morals, their beliefs, and we create a contrast, we could understand why we are where we are. And because this conversation here has been off the table, hence the reason why most people who in marriages don't have any idea of what A to Z is, what is a good working model, or what is a reference point as a reference point. So hence the reason why most people just, I'll go with the flow. It's a go with the flow motion. We see how it goes. So I have one idea, she have a next idea. My idea changed today, she idea changed tomorrow, and it's a recipe for chaos. So we just go through, roles were defined and they were loved and honored. The greatest punishment was banishment. Elders were honored. So in the nighttime, the elders will teach the kids, they will have stories. So elders were honored. The most honorable in a whole tribe is with the elders. What did the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? He says, the barakat is with the elders. So much so in some hadith it says, when you gather to pray, let the elders lead the salah. Right? So the question is, if you look at the model of the traditional biological family and you compare it with the religious moral values, faith belief family, you can see huge amount. And if you combine that together, you can extract the characteristics and the foundation of a good family life, A to Z, a good model to follow. Equality was not heard of. There was no concept of equality. There was
if I explain that one there.
And proportionate. So it's not equality, the opposite of equality is oppression. That's not the case. There was proportionate dealings, and justice. So justice isn't the opposite of justice is not equality, because if you have two kids, one of them can handle himself very, very well, and the other one is in a physical health state that needs more of your time, then you give one more time based on his needs. If you have two wives, one wife have two kids, and another wife have 400 kids, your financial contribution to the one with 400 kids are going to be different.
Yes, you can't be equal then. Yeah.
Be pushed. So the question, equality was not part of the traditional family, but what was part of it is proportionate response, right? Wealth was shared, but it was shared for the greater good. So wealth was shared for expansion, huge amount of expansion, and life outside of the traditional family was one of the greatest shame that can happen. So today, people leaving the home, and there's no shame. No shame. They have no shame. They have no remorse. You know, they kick their parents out of the house. They treat their parents bad. The woman leave the house or the man leave the house. And all these things, and there's no shame. So in the traditional family, there was a lot of shame. Shame was an important part of what you were raised with, and we need somebody to instill those qualities,
those values,
those values of shame. So these are some of the characteristics of what we look at as the model, you know, of the traditional family. And then we can go down to the faith communities and examine the 5 other categories. We just talk about the first model. And I need to shut up now and give somebody else some chance to speak.
Yeah. Abdurrahim, Ubaidullah, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I mean, just to get the ball rolling, the challenges that we're facing, especially with the LGBT issue being pushed, the what do you call it, the transgender being pushed. People these days, as we're saying, the nuclear family is being undermined, and we need to have that reference point reinstated again and again and again and again. Otherwise, we're on shaky ground. So, brothers, if you've got any points you want to put across as well, well done.
Do you want to start, Ak?
I wonder if you. Let's go, Brandon. I'll jump in, man.
Okay, yeah. So, well, a few things that come to mind is, you know, just on reflection, just based on what you just said, it just seems like this society's done without Islam. Without Islam, this society's done. It's finished. So it's like, and see what the elder was just saying, Abdullah Muhammed. So about the elders and that, yeah. I realized, because I'm trying to build a family with my wife. I've come from Jahiliyyah, so I haven't got a father. My mother is gone about her business and whatnot, yeah. So I'm raising my children by myself, trying to learn how to build a family without having without having seen it myself. So I have to pick up these things from from wherever I can get good examples. That's where I get good examples. But one thing about my wife's family, my wife's Moroccan, yeah. Like one thing I realized, because my family's at their my wife's at her parents now with my children, and it's like the way that they make my children calm. I realize, like, wow, like grandma and grandpa, like they're needed,
important.
Like, they're needed, because I will destroy my children. Like I don't you see where grandma and grandpa, they will give them that. It's like time to sit down.
They have wisdom. They have more wisdom, isn't it, at that age?
Like they got wisdom. They have them just sitting there peacefully. Where me, they always want to play. They always want to do something, and I always want to please them.
Yes.
So I think maybe because I never had, you know, a father and that, I want to make sure my children aren't hurt, and I don't want my children to, like, when my son gets angry or starts crying for his game. I know you can't play the game, but I want to give him the game. And it's kind of it's like I'm stuck, because it's like my son's hurt, but I know the game ain't good, and it's like I'm just stuck, because it's like I don't want my son to be upset. So when he's at grandma and grandpa's now, they'll just take it off of him and just make him understand that he has to just chill. You have to just lay there and just chill. Like that's it. Like you need peace, you need calm. Like that's it. And I was like, you know what? It's just something so simple like that, like them just bringing calm to the children. It just made me realize like I need you because I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
But do you think, Imam Abdullah, concerning us as Muslims, being that, you know, as Ubaidullah said, the society is finished without Islam, meaning we have the basics or the basis of the family structure, but we don't push it. We're afraid to push it. Like say, yo, this is the best model. The Muslims need to be proactive in pushing this model of the nuclear family, the faith-based family. Otherwise, we know what it's going to lead to. Do we need to be more proactive in this?
Well, first of all, when we talk about communities are inspired by leaders. It's always leadership. So Bani Israel, they had leaders. So communities need leadership. The reason why we cannot be proactive and we cannot be this and we cannot be that and we cannot be this and do this is because we still have a deficit, a massive shortage of a quality of leadership for this time. You see, this time we live in here now, we don't have that quality or that caliber to protect the flock from the wolves of this time. So the Quran, Al-Quran, the previous scriptures, if you look at them, all of them have some common threads. If you look at them thematically, in all its themes and its indexation, they have some common threads and common themes. One of those important themes is time. Allah speaks about time. And one of the things he speaks about is that he compels the believers to understand the times that you live in. You as a nation, you as a community, you got to understand the times you're living in. You have to understand the Pharaoh that you're dealing with. You have to understand the Nimrod that you're dealing with. And you have to have the correct response, the correct attitude, the correct weapons, spiritual weapons, to protect yourself from the shaitan of this time. Now, when I say spiritual weapons, the spirituality of this time now has to raise to the next level. It has to raise, the bar has to raise.
The spirituality, you said?
Yes, spirituality. So we are a community. No, I mean, we'll go into that. I mean, if I go into that, it's a big, massive conversation. But the Ummah need levels of spirituality. We don't have the spiritual balance to deal with the systematic political and economic demonization of the world today. So when we talk about political and economical demonization of the world today, we have leaders who set the policy, who create the circumstances, who set the mode, and they are godless people. And they invite into a way of life that is hedonistic.
But
Babylonian.
Babylonian. You see people that want to push Islam though, they're called terrorists now. So they've created this whole narrative where if you start pushing Islam openly with you know, they're gonna start calling you a radical. You know, they got all these labels and slogans to just dissuade you from wanting to speak. Like, you know, like for example, you may just want to speak about being a man. I got called a misogynist online just for like speaking just logic about being a man. And it's like, you're a misogynist, you sound like a misogynist. And I'm like, from that, you see, from I got attacked like that, man, I don't even chat like that. I don't even talk again online no more. I'm like, listen.
Okay, see that's a key point.
See my real opinion. Instagram's gonna block me.
Yeah.
Gonna ban me.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? That's the reality. If you speak the hawk, they're gonna block you from their platform. So it's like you have to tiptoe and just kind of just you know, like you can't even. It's like you can't even speak the truth.
Okay, let me give you an example. Like there were like politicians can't even describe what a woman is these days. They're scared to say a woman gives birth, a woman has a
Come on, man.
cervix, a woman like they can't. I'm saying this is the situation, and the point is, we as Muslims, we can't be fazed by that. We've got to stand up for what how Allah's created mankind. We've got to say, well, okay, Allah created Adam and Eve, and that's how the humanity started. We can't be afraid to put these things up on social media, but there is we didn't need to have wisdom to get, so you don't get blocked, so you don't get taken off social media. There has to be a way that the Muslims, as you said, we need to have leaders who have that wisdom that can put across Islam how it is, barefaced how it is, and at the same time not get blocked if that's possible.
Do you know what I think? Like, I think one thing is like living it rather than talking about it. It's like, are we actually living it? You know what I'm saying? It's like, because people judge us by our actions. So when they see how we behave and they see how we live, because Abdul Rahim's building his family, I'm building my family, I'm sure you brothers are building your families. So it's like when people interact with us and they see us, that to them is like, wow, like mum, dad, children, and then their lives in chaos, their neighbors' lives in chaos, their friends' lives in chaos. So just them seeing, because like just seeing us live our life like that, I think is like big dawah
Yes,
as well.
it's not just talk. Yeah,
like as example, you know, like when I was in Whitechapel, I think yesterday, yeah. Now they've got a long history of their elders being involved in the community, and when I went into the masjid, it's full of the uncles, full of elders from 70s to 80s to 60 years old, and it's kind of like they laid the foundation, and then you got flocks of youth, which are the new generation, who aren't walking into the deen blind. And it's like, I feel like for us, we're the first generation. Like, we have no elders. Our elders are like, not being rude, but our elders were drunks. Our elders were, you know,
there wasn't on Dean. Just say that.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that's the truth. That's the example of the elders. They don't eat right. They got bad diets. Like so we're basically the first generation that's actually trying to actually practice Islam and try and change the future. So that when we have children, then inshallah they've got a whole different perspective of reality, and then they can build on that and build on that. You see what I'm saying? You know, like to answer the Uncle Abdullah about like leadership, yeah, it's like I think leaders was cultivated from like in the past. People cultivate leaders, and when I go to Whitechapel, I look at that and it's like I'm like, wow, I can see they're cultivating leaders. Like it's cultivating. Leaders don't just pop out of thin air. Leaders are taught how to be leaders. You see what I'm saying? And who's teaching us to be leaders? And if no one's teaching us, we need to learn, and then we need to teach our youngers, because it's like somewhere, like the buck has to stop with someone, and it has to start with somebody. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Abdullah, what do you think? Put it in context. You being an imam, and how is the Muslim community doing? Put in some context.
Well, first of all, from a definition point of view, a community, a ummah, is a group of people moving towards the same direction, developing, growing, supporting, and helping each other. So if by definition we don't fulfill that criteria, whether we're developing, we're together, we're working together, we're growing, if we're not fulfilling that definition, then number one, are we a ummah? Are we a community? Now, Margaret Thatcher make it quite clear. There's no community, there's no society. There's you and your bills and your family.
Okay.
Now, when she said that, she making it quite clear that the political agenda on individualism And the age and the days for community and leadership and development and community centers and leadership training courses and loads of collectivism, those days are over.
They want them to be over, yes.
Right. Now, so the question is, those of us who know we have to raise consciousness, raise awareness that we have to be a community. We don't need to go and beg somebody to be a community. We have to love each other. We have to invest in each other. As a man invests in his job, or you invest in whatever you invest with, you have to invest in community development. And when we become a community, we'll start knowing each other, understanding each other, growing with each other. It's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect process. Then, as a community, we can say, we as a community or our leaders, at the moment, we're not we don't fit the qualification and the definition as a community. Our leadership, our management systems, forget the word leadership. Let's look at management systems are not the best management systems. They're not good models. They need to be revamped. They need to make a huge amount of changes to our management system so they resemble the Sunnah more than they're resembling systems and cultures that are alien to Islam. So we need a management system, we need the sacrifice, we need the education, the awareness in order for us to start to develop. Now, prophecy has to be fulfilled. We can cry, we can scream, we can beat ourselves up. Prophecy will be fulfilled. So if the world has to go through a phase now, it has to go down before it goes up, then it has to reach rock bottom. We are only warners. We call the dawah, the noble deed of giving the dawah, inviting to good and pointing out and making clear what is wrong, what is evil, even though wrong and evil is hiding beneath the icing cake. So starting point is really, by definition, leadership, governance, management, unity as subject matters need to be raised. And I don't think in this time it will come from the top. I think it will come from bottom, go up. So the change we need, or the change very much likely, is a bottom-top change. So it's people like yourself and these programs that will enable enlightenment, awareness, and cause that change to happen. To sit here and wait for the imams and the murabis and the scholars and the da'iyah to do it for us, I'm not feeling that. No. With the exception of a few.
Just to put in context, like, and this might sound like separating state from religion, because we have the religious clergy who you might say majority of the time they're in the masajid, teaching the belief, teaching righteous actions. And then when you come outside to face society, we need school governors, for example. We need people who can push back in the schools at the parents' class to say, you know what, we don't this LGBT thing pushed to our kids. Or we've got to have counselors on the council who can also push back. That may not be the imam. It's difficult to get the imam to sit there, even though he's the most knowledgeable. You're going to have the average Muslim stepping up and pushing back in society. You get what I'm saying? So there's a role for the imams, and there's a role for us, the run-of-the-mill Muslim, who has to get involved in the council and the schools and all, governorship, because it's all hands on deck right now. Because we can't say, no, let's dress back and let the imams do it because they're the most knowledgeable. There's just not enough. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, first of all, our imams might be knowledgeable in leading the salah and performing the salat al-janaza, and in many of the Ramadan and the Tawari and a lot of things the imam might be knowledgeable upon. But it doesn't mean to say he is the best person or the most qualified person to stand in a primary school, communicate effectively with primary school teachers, parents, and kids. That doesn't mean he being the imam. So so a person might be the imam for that job, but when it comes to the masjid, he's just a follower. So being an imam for a masjid does not mean to say necessary that you master the art and the skills of other very important role in society. So imam is an imam. If he goes on a plane, he's not an imam on the plane. He has to follow the pilot. The pilot becomes the imam. All right. Imam is an imam. If he goes into the mechanic shop and the mechanic say, "Don't walk here, stand across there, don't do that," he gotta listen. He can't say, "I'm the man." You know. So the question is, we have different talents, skills, different calling, different assignment from Allah. And when a person come close to his Lord, he will be able to recognize the voice of Allah, and he will be able to receive his assignment. So if Allah is calling you to take a role in education, primary school, outer school development, you have to prepare yourself spiritually and get yourself ready to receive your assignment from Allah, because there's a lot of work here to be done. There's a lot of work to be done in the ummah, in the community, loads of work. And we just have to make room in our heart to be able to do that work. And talking about imams, measured leadership, governance is an entirely different subject that requires a kind of systematic approach towards unpacking it, and especially understanding the times that we're living in. And many imams may quote a verse in the Quran. Some of them memorize the Quran, but not all of them has studied it. So quoting verses, memorizing verses is not the same as studying the verses. And for our development, we have to study the book of Allah rather than just read it or just memorize it. We have to study the book of Allah. And that is a little bit lacking. But as I said, there's much more to talk about this subject. And we may digress a little bit, but we could come back on this subject. And one of the following points of this subject is that in the Christian model of political Christianity, where Christianity had a role with the state, Christians and secular governments in the 16, 17, 18, 1900s used to believe and they used to teach that life is most honorable and the most worthy and the most precious when it lived for God, when it lived for family, when it lived for communities, and when it lived for country. So the order of life in anthems, you have a national anthem, you would know God first, family second, community third, and country come fourth. Now, with the rise of secularism, that's out the door. That's no longer the case. So that's off the platter, it's off the discussion. Hence the reason why sometimes we lost navigation. Our navigation lost. And we just going with the flow. How it hang, we're just going with the flow. But coming back to the model of repairing the family, restoring the family, how many of us as fathers or wives teach our children God first, family second, community third, country last? How many of us? Most of us today who listening to this program say,
man put his hand up. I him wake up. MashaAllah.
I do. So for me personally, alhamdulillah, I've done a video previously and it was about community. And obviously I like to go back to the dictionary, which is common interests and common goals. And that's the definition of community in the English dictionary. So for me personally, I feel like I couple that with the Quran where it says, save yourself and your family from the hellfire. So my first point of call is myself, rectifying myself, making sure that I'm on a certain standard, etc. And then it's about my family. My family is first off, my spouse. The person that I'm with, that person has to be correct and we have to be on the same page. And then after that, when you start having your children, you are teaching your children to be somewhat disciplined, educated, God-fearing, etc. And then after that, then we can start talking about your community. So you start linking with people, because like I said, community is common interests and common goals. So then you start linking with people that are like-minded. Do you see where I'm coming from? It doesn't matter that your family is right there. like your brothers, your sisters, etc. If it's not common interests and common goals, they're not your community. They might be your family, but they're not your community. So you need to link with like-minded people and have your children around those like-minded people. Now, when you can build that, then you build your own community, yeah, and you're driven towards a common interest and a common goal. And then that's when you can start moving to, say, for instance, a country, etc. Because it's like what Abdullah just said. When people see you moving in a certain light, so if people see me and they say, Raj, you know what, that brother there, he's married, he's got his children on a certain way, he's doing business or work, etc. They start looking and they start saying, Raj, why is that? Why is he like that? Do you know? So they start pinpointing certain things. So your dawah is now, it's come from speaking to actually people actually seeing what's going on, and they want to now emulate that. Yeah. And they might ask you, okay, so how do you go about that? Well, my religion, my deen teaches me A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Do you see where I'm coming from? And then we're able to globally take over, etc. But my question is, are we men? Do you see where I'm coming from? Because it's like a lot of people say they're men, but it just seems like we're boys pretending. Do you see where I'm coming from? Because are we really taking care of our priorities? Do you get me?
What is a man in modern
Boy,
society?
we have to look at Islam as Muslims. As Muslims, we have to look at Islam. Now, Islam teaches us to be the shepherds over our flock. Do you see where I'm coming from? So for me personally, a man is a man that's taking care of these priorities, which is being the shepherd over his flock, you know? And if you can't do that, then you can't really call yourself a man, personally. That's just my thing on it. Do you get me? So we need to be looking like, are we men? Are we taking care of our priorities? You know, are we trying to overcome our past traumas? You know, are we moving forward past that and then holistically looking after our families, you know, holistically? So that's not just your deen, but then that is your education, yeah, that is your health, your wealth, that is the true wealth, is your health, yeah. And we need to start taking it forward from there, yeah. And then after all of that, once, like I said, you've saved your family, then you can start doing the outside work.
Oh, don't you think it goes hand in hand though? I know what you're saying, there's an order to it, yeah. But can't you do both? Can't you work on both? It's kind of like, you know, like Allah likes the small charity. You just give the little charity, yeah. I could just say, you know what, community, sorry, but I can't help you right now. I need to help myself. That's good.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, then go and just help yourself. But for me, I understand that I need to help you too. I can help me. I'm helping me, but then by me helping you, I'm helping me too. See what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely.
By me contributing a little bit, because we could help each other. Because one thing I realized, yeah, it's like doing business, yeah. A lot of brothers is selling atta. A lot of brothers has got businesses, but none of us don't know how to work together. So everyone knows how to do their own little thing and do a little thing, but no one don't know how to come together and do a huge thing. I think it boils down to like being selfish. See what I'm saying? I'm selfish. I'm saying I'm trying to learn to not be selfish and to share and to give more. And
do you know what it is? Yeah, I don't feel like it's a thing of being selfish, innit? Like I just feel like I said, it's the common interests and the common goals. Because look, everybody knows that I bang on about the education thing, innit? Yeah. When it comes to me paying my school fees, yeah, like I'm out of pocket. Do you see where I'm coming from? But I know if I start knocking on doors and I start saying to the brothers, yo, bro, does anyone have any contributions? Because most people can't even see eye to eye with me. Man doesn't even see the like that is imperative that we all help with, say, for instance, my daughter or my son's education, because then man would know that, okay, In order to have a community that can stand up for itself, we need to have doctors, we need to have lawyers, we need to have all these things as much as well as imams, etc. So if man is expecting, say for instance, me to take that burden upon my shoulders, to make sure that my children are suitable to be there for the community, but then when I'm asking, brother, do you have this or da 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 da, a man's looking at me like, hey, he got his own business, don't he work, rare. That's because man doesn't see eye to eye.
But then, like you said about the like-minded individuals, the ones that's on the same wavelength with you will understand and say, yeah, like you said to me the other day, the fireworks, boom. So I know what time it is. So it's like you get the like-minded individuals that know if you said to me, I need my kids to get educated because your children succeeding is me succeeding. Your children succeeding is my children succeeding. So I will give because I know I will fund your children because I know if your children succeed, because I know your children ain't like you're putting those resources to help the community rather than, oh, let me go and send my kids to China to go live by themselves in China. It's like, why am I going to give you anything if my resources ain't going to help me? It's like, I'm going to help you because it's going to help me.
Rightfully so. But do you know why? Do you know why I highlighted this point? Yeah, because the sad thing about it, is that alhamdulillah, you're saying that you're being vocal now. But what I'm saying is that there is, you see, within our community, you see those common interests and common goals is very small, bro. Like people don't actually understand the bigger picture. Do you get me? And so the reason why I highlighted this is because me and my wife are always in debates, like not even debates, but we're always in discussion every day about the community and exactly what I put forth just now. Why is there not a community that if we said, say for instance, yo, we're out here, we're doing this, you know, like who's on it? Because people just don't understand. And when you try to make them understand, they feel like to say you're bragging or you're boasting. So when I'm doing my videos and I'm telling everyone, yo, listen, I'm trying to push my children into independent school. I'm not doing that to brag on man or to boast on man. I'm trying to open up man's eyes to show that, do you know what? You see, just because we came from the hood and we used to be bangers and sellers or whatever, that we don't have to have that for our children.
Gotcha.
And that we can push them into these lights and etc. etc. How many people from my community, our community, has asked me, how did you do that? Or asked my wife, how did you do that? Nobody.
I think
not you. Yeah, and I pointed and I told man, but I'm saying you're one of like none, bro. Like you get me?
You have to remember, bruv, it's not about quantity, it's about quality.
100%.
Greatness is built with handfuls of quality people.
Good people,
The general masses, like look at who runs the world. Bruv, the sheep that run that are the ones that's the hamsters that's running the system.
That's running the wheel, 100%.
Listen, go and jump in the cab, drop this guy, go deliver the pizza, go and do this, go and do that. The ones that's the brains behind it, they're the ones it's a handful of people, groups, families, groups of people. So for me, it don't even really matter about having everyone on board to understand, because they're not meant to understand. They're meant to just be the hamster. You're meant to just be the cog in the wheel. We're meant to just say, listen, go and do this, go and do that. Here's your money. And then they go and think for themselves. And a lot of people are just selfish. It's like, I've got my pay. I can do my little thing for my family. Cool. But we're the brains behind making them understand, like, you know, the vision and the plan, and, you know, even them giving up money that it's gonna go back to them kind of thing. Like it's the people, the masterminds behind it. It's like it's not about, not everyone's gonna have the master plan. Do you get me?
The master plan,
that's the fact. But do you know what it is for me? For me, obviously, because we was having this conversation and we spoke about leaders, etc. Like I feel like I'm a leader in my own right. So where this is a platform that I know that it's going to touch a couple people strong in it, it's imperative for me to make these points out here so that it hits outside. Because a man might not know me to have this conversation. Yeah, do you get me? Or a man might feel like, raw, when they see me, I'm just a certain way because I'm just getting to business, bro. I ain't got no time to really have that little conversation with man unless we just, do you get me? So I'm putting it out here so that raw is on this platform, so a man might pause this video and see, well, okay, raw, no, man's got a point. Man's got a point. So yeah, this is what we need to do, and this is what we need to move to. So sometimes as a leader, you have to put something in a place for man to have a discussion so that man can see what the problem is. Do you get me?
Yeah. Exactly. Go on, Fadl.
I think as well, yeah, it's like, because we're part of this generation, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, all the brothers that we know, like, it's kind of like for us to stick it on them a little bit and be like,
in a nice way. But
but like to kind of call them out, say, like, you need to put some money into it. Like, you need to get involved. It's like we have to kind of like make man know, like, bruv, this is what it is now, isn't it? Like, this is the movement. This is what we're on. This is the plan. And it's like, we need you to contribute. Like, we need you to get involved. We need you to help. So I'm saying, and I think, you see, like, I think maybe in the past the community's done it. You see, with a lot of, like, and I have to keep it real, yeah, a lot of people stealing and things like that, yeah, and money going missing and all these things. It stops people from wanting to even invest in the community, because it's like the people that's in these leadership positions, like the brother that was outside the masjid every week, he's got the bucket in Brixton for years and years and years. Now this brother, things duck. You see what I'm saying? Thing man stuck out years ago.
We'll beep that out. We'll beep that.
It's the truth, bro. You have to speak the truth.
We're gonna beep that.
You have to speak the truth, bro. Listen, because in Islam,
there's a context to it.
In the masjid, in the Muslim community, that's the last place you expect people to be stealing. So it's like, if people start stealing, no, but I'm just being real. So I'm not talking about that brother, for example, yeah, because even years ago, the brother stole from the bookshop, yeah, and stole all the extension money and whatever. And for me, you see, these things keep happening, yeah, where people that's in positions of authority and control, if I'm giving you my money and my money don't go where it's meant to go, I'm not giving you nothing. And it's just ruined the credibility for this. It's ruined your credibility because I've given you money and the money's gone. So it's like, why would I give you money again? I feel, yeah, like the community has to, it's like they have to be rebuilt again. Like they have to be, it's like, you know, trust has been broken. And it's like people's trust needs to be rebuilt again. Like people need to understand, like, you know, people be held accountable and they need to know who they're giving money to. They need to know who, you see what I'm saying? Like they need to know who's going to be responsible and who's going to be held accountable for anything that they, if they contribute or do or give anything, that it's like these people are going to be, you know, like responsible, like they fear a lot. You see what I'm saying?
And that's why I make it a personal job, to do my thing, not because like I want the light or anything like that, but it's because when we're in a society where people are kind of skeptical about other people, etc., we have to then, if someone sees you and they feel like, Raj, you know what, they warm to you or they can put a little trust in you, you sometimes have to pick up the torch and be the torch bearer. Do you get me? You have to carry it on your shoulders even though you might not want to, because you know, if I left it to other people or man might say, man's not really too sure. But when I'm putting myself forth now, man saying, raw, it's my man, man seen what he's done, raw, man can put a little trust in that, okay, let me see how it goes and So sometimes you have to be that person that puts yourself forth and be in that limelight to get the scrutiny or whatever and so that man can give you a chance in order for you to do something and show man, well, I'm not like that.
Yeah, and if man can trust you with a little thing,
start small, innit?
You run the fireworks well, you run the Eid thing well. All right, cool. What else can we give him now? Because that thing that runs well, he does that event well. Okay, what else can we? It's like it builds, isn't it? It's like children, isn't it? You see your child, okay, you can trust them to do this. Okay, cool. All right, cool. You can trust them to do that. You give them a little bit more responsibility. So I think through your actions, then people will start to, trust more and give more responsibility, and to not be afraid to put money to back this person. You know what I'm saying? So
Jade, let me jump in a sec. Chef, as you know from being in Birmingham and in the inner cities and Luton and stuff like that, the inner city problems, and you understand the dynamics where people are coming from, their background, and what we're trying to do and what we're pushing up against. Okay, give us some steps, fundamental steps that we need to do, because we're an hour and a half now. Fundamental steps that we need to do in order to, one, stick together and have a growing community, and at the same time be able to survive and even push back on the social pressure to conform to this agenda of breaking down the family and fluid gender and all this kind of stuff. Where do we start, Sheikh?
First of all, I think we need realistic expectations.
Within the West or from each other, or?
Well, realistic expectation in context to your question means to say, if we have a problem, we have a crisis, we cannot expect the solution to come from places that it's not going to come from. So if we're talking about broken families, the places that are instrumental for breaking up and dismantling the Islamic family, the morals, the values, we cannot sit and cry or expect them to fix the problem when they are the ones that actually engineer and dismantling the family. Right? So realistic expectations. So if we have community issues, and we have these issues, and these issues are boiling over, they're boiling point, and they are boiling point because the vanguards, the leadership, the unity is not there, because it's not engineered, it's not initiated from the member or from the imams or from the scholars, then we can't sit for the rest of our lives and wait for it to happen from them. So I think a person or people must have realistic expectations of where the solution is. And sometimes we cry to someone else to sort something out for us when we have the ability to resolve it ourselves. So for example, if one of the issues of the community, a community cannot grow if there are underlying hatred, underlying animosity, underlying grudge, underlying misunderstanding. So communities have to come together and make opportunities to reconcile hatred, grudge, envy. We need to be instruments of reconciliation. And we cannot sit and expect someone else to do that for us, or expect the enemy or the very person who have us there, expect him to bail us out of it. So principles of unity, reconciliation, all these different principles, which is some of the cause, the prime reasons why we have some of these problems. And we have to kind of, number one, realistically expect it to come from us. And we have to do a lot, believe in ourselves, do a lot for ourselves, not as individuals, not as self as individuals. So, Allah says, Kumu anfusikum ahlikum naran. Save yourself and your family from the fire of hell, which is made out of men and stones, over which are angels stern and severe. Now, kum in that context does not mean necessary singular one person. Sometimes kum means as a group. Save yourself as a group and your families as a group collectively, because we by ourselves can't save ourselves. The old model of community, the old model of family, they needed each other. We need each other. So sometimes you can say something to your son, he wouldn't listen to you. I may say the same thing in a different language, in a different way, from a different tone, and he might listen to me as uncle. So the question is, your wife may not listen to you, but she might listen to my wife. So the question is, kumu anfusikum ahlikum is not about individualism, and sometimes it's quoted in that context, but you as a community have to look after each other as families, as tribes, as a group, and save yourselves from the hellfire. And part of saving yourselves from the hellfire is you sacrificing yourself for the cause of Allah, as Allah commanded you. Strive hard in the cause of Allah. Strive hard. Strive hard and struggle hard in the cause of Allah. So number one, we must have realistic expectations of where our solutions are coming from. We must believe in ourselves and what we can do for ourselves. And it's all a collective effort. All a collective effort. And the concept of unity and all the different verses and the hadith and the history behind unity is very important. And we don't understand the enemy. We don't understand the plots of the enemy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "La tattabi'u khutuwati shaitan." Do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. But if you don't know the footsteps of shaitan, how do you know the steps you're making is right, in the right direction? So I don't think we understand the enemy of the time. We don't as a group fully understand the time. If we come together, we have collective scriptural reasoning, we have collective understanding. Allah puts barakat in that collectiveness, and we can see clearly by understanding each other's perspective. So it is about understanding the times we're living in, equipping ourselves to deal with this season. Because time is also linked metaphorically with seasons. So there's winter, there's summer, there's autumn, there's spring. There are seasons that you go through in your personal life. There's seasons that you go through as a community. We are going through different seasons, different time. And if we understand those times, those challenges, we will know how to equip ourselves collectively. It's a collective effort. We need reconciliation. We need ayats that will touch our heart and compel us that we need each other. And we have to work together to understand the problem and equip ourselves with the right response, the proportionate response towards the problem.
Excellent. And I think it starts with a conversation and being real, being Muslim real, and talking about what we need to speak about. Ubaidullah, Faddal, we're going to wind it up soon. So
on the reconciliation thing, I think that's a really, really good idea, And I'll be really, really honest, There's probably 3 brothers that I don't chat to, But
easy. Let's deal with that first.
No.
Come on.
Pardon?
Not gonna go in, but we should try and reconcile it. We're gonna be the mechanism for that.
Like the brother said, reconciliation. If you're gonna be real, either this is Muslim real or it's Muslim fake. If you're gonna have brothers,
I'm gonna hold on. Listen, don't mention nothing personal on the thing. Don't put the beef out online. You get me?
I'm not mentioning nothing personal. No, you have to
don't
mention
mention no name.
I'm not gonna. But if I did,
okay,
it's
in a
reconciliation.
But
no, but if I did,
just tell them you love them for the sake of Allah. Tell them, brothers, I love you all for the sake of Allah, and then it's done. Problem finished.
That's no, but people say that all the time. Oh, Aki, I love you for the sake of Allah. I don't go nowhere. Some lip service thing. I'm talking about. I could say people's names and say, you know what? There's a few brothers that I've fallen out with that I think, you know what? It could have even been due to my fault as well. Like they feel hurt because of something I've done. I might have done something snaky to them, but then I could give my reasons and my explanation as to why I've done what I've done from my perspective. So if people have a conversation,
are you ready for that? Are you ready for that sit down then? You ready for it?
I will extend the olive branch.
Okay, let's do it, man.
And
let's do it.
I'll be real.
Abdul Rahim, let's organize it, brother. Let's start with ourselves, and that's the first thing we're gonna attack. We're gonna get these brothers together.
I'll be specific, because I think there's certain brothers in the community that it's like we shun them, and none of us are faultless. Yeah, none of us are sinless. And it's like we'll just shun a man and just it's like, and just now he's off the deen and he's just doing what he's doing. So for example, you know, like the brother from Tulsa, Adnan, yeah, he had his little fitna in the community, yeah. But when I'm reflecting, he had a lot of good that he brought to the community too, in regards to like where, you know, like you say, everyone has a different position to play.
Yeah,
he's definitely got his position to play. You see what I'm saying? And it's kind of like, it's just for us to regulate each other so we don't abuse our position. See what I'm saying? But for me, the brother, I know he feels I've done something snaky. Yeah. So I'd like to extend the olive branch to that brother Adnan, and then also I'd like to extend another olive branch to me and the brother from North London, Arabian Luxuries, Hassan. Me and Hassan fell out. Yeah, we done some business. We fell out.
Gone.
And me and him don't chat now. Yeah. But same again. He's a man doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. And it's a thing. If it's for the sake of Allah, because I understand the bigger picture, I will drop my pride. Yeah. And I'll reconcile to get goals achieved.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? But I will say this one thing. See, I've put my pride on the line and I've mentioned it.
Don't spoil it now, you know.
No. I'm just going to say to you, there was a brother.
No, don't do it.
Listen. I fell out with a brother in my house. Yeah. He started, basically, me and the brother fell out. Yeah. So I apologized to the brother. I went to the brother, I apologized. I saw him on the street, I apologized. He's not chatting to me. So it's like, sometimes you can extend the olive branch. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to reconcile because I see the bigger picture and you're in your feelings still. So it's like, I've done that with this brother. I apologize. And I could have just rid past him on my moped. I didn't have to say nothing. I could be like, in my pride, you're in your pride, and we don't ever chat again. But I said, you know what? I apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry for what I've done. Yeah. And, you know, he said he forgives me or whatnot, and then he's still not talking to me. So my thing is, I'm willing to extend the olive branches to people because for the sake of the community, for the sake of Islam, for the sake of Allah, that's it. Like, because I want the body to be moving. I don't care about. I'll put my own personal little feelings away to get bigger, greater things accomplished. Because it's really, at the end of the day, if we say we all believe in Islam, we're all practicing Salafiyah. I'll give you another example, which I was thinking about, like how you got brothers in Birmingham, S-pubs, Brixton, S-pubs. No, because I'm new generation like Abdul Rahim. So my thing is, I've become a Muslim, and people, it's like, these brothers are on it, and these brothers are off it. If you brothers all sincerely say we follow the Quran and Sunnah, we say we're upon the way of the Salaf, why can't we unite and link up? Why can't we all just link up?
Okay, I tell you what to do.
You see what I'm saying? Because then
we're gonna end on that point.
When everyone links up, that's when big things happen. But people can't claim that they're upon the way of the Salaf. He's on the way of the Salaf. Man in Birmingham's on the way of the Salaf. Man in Brixton on the way of the Salaf. These brothers in America's on the way of the Salaf. Man in flipping Shepherd's Bush on the way of the Salaf. But no one don't chat. These men are on the way of the Salaf, but you man ain't on the way of the Salaf. It's like, come on, man. If everyone, because the funny thing is, it's not even like, oh, you man are Shia and you man are upon the way of the Salaf. I get you man not uniting.
Yeah.
Man is saying that, Quran and Sunnah, following the Quran and the Sunnah according to the way of the Salafiyah, Salafis. All you man are screaming the same thing. How comes you man ain't putting, because for me, it's like people have to put Islam before their self.
So,
you see what I'm saying? You need to put Allah before yourself. Like, the deen of Allah is being held back by us. Because it's like, we claim to follow this way. You play for Arsenal, I play for Arsenal, but we're both arguing in the team. We're never
your team gonna lose. Your team gonna lose, brother. Anyway, listen, we're gonna have to wrap it up on that one. Seriously, sorry to cut you,
So
right?
I'm willing to reconcile with my little reconciliations. I put it out there now because people didn't know. But Adnan don't chat to me. Yeah.
We're gonna
Hassan don't
sort
chat
that
to
out.
me. Yeah. So this could be a platform where we jump on and we can
reconcile
try and build bridges together.
I mean,
Inshallah.
I think that should be the first plan of action is about reconciling the Muslim communities, the individuals, the groups, and to break down these barriers of sectarianism that we have. Otherwise, we're going to be weak and maintain, this weakness in front of the enemies of the deen, the enemies who are in our face.
Can I add one more? Can I add one more person that I need to reconcile with?
Go on, because it's about reconciliation. Be quick.
Putting my pride on the line,
Mashallah, mashallah.
I can go to the end of my
being
life.
humble.
I can don't chat to man because I can say,
good,
you done me wrong. So therefore, I'm sticking on that and I'm rolling with that to my death day. Yeah.
But you're bigger than that though.
You must come to me and you must apologize. You must humble yourself before me. But a man might never humble himself before me. So I will humble myself before you for the sake of Allah. Yeah, I will say another person that I haven't spoken to for a long time.
Go on.
Fighting Ishmael Hamza. I used to do fighting with him.
We
done a little business together. It didn't go well. Yeah. And now we haven't had no contact for a long time. So my thing is just about reconciling with people.
Good.
Just for the sake of Allah. Just so we can actually focus on bigger goals, bigger objectives.
And move on. I'm gonna send him a message.
That's my thing. I put my pride on the line. But like I said, I could just go through my life and be like, I ain't chatting to man, and just keep it moving. Yeah. But I'm gonna show my human side. I'm gonna show I'm a human being and humble myself. And if I need to apologize, I'll apologize. And that's it. And keep it moving, inshallah. Abdul Rahim, you want to say
building bridges, not breaking bonds. Building bridges, not breaking bonds. Yeah. I respect it. I respect it.
Imam Abdullah Muhammed, it's been a pleasure. I think we've ended on a beautiful note, and that is a thing of reconciling between the individual Muslims, the communities, the different groups that the enemies that are against us as Muslims. They are planning and plotting. We know Allah is the best of planners, but we also have to do our work. We can't leave it to this man or that man. I think it's time for every man to step up to the plate and do whatever we can do. It's been very interesting, the conversation. There's many layers to this. I think we only just put our foot on one step. There's been many times we've got to sit down and go on to the next chapter. But it's been a pleasure. Imam Abdullah, inshallah, we sit down with you again. We only really touched the surface. So no doubt, hopefully next week you can come back again and enlighten us on this topic again. To the guests, Ubaydullah, for your time and your sincerity.
We are Kamak.
And spreading the this thing of reconciling and how to reconcile. Actually, that's just being sincere. I'm putting it out there. Brother Fulan and Fulan, let's reconcile. That's excellent, inshallah. We should all have that in our heart. Abdul Rahim, AR Sense, words of wisdom, as usual. Inshallah, we'll catch up with you again next week. Brothers, any last words before we go? Imam Zaki?
No, you said it right. Jazakallah khair for all the input and the contribution. And so that was fantastic. I do enjoy meeting all of you. And
yes,
wonderful.
So can I ask one question? Abdullah Muhammed, so you're an imam in Birmingham, yeah?
I'm not an imam in Birmingham, no. I'm living now. Yeah.
Was in Derby.
Yes. Derby,
in Derby, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Jade. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up. Jazakallah khair everyone for your input. Inshallah, we'll see you again next week on the Muslim Real Podcast. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.